Hey guys, the villain here. Today I'm not here for a game, but to give you a piece of Minecraft history. This is the story of Invincible Anarchy, a 1-year-old anarchy server. This is mine and your story. So let's get right into it. As the title of the video shows, we're going to talk about why I made an anarchy server. But before we start, we need to talk about today's sponsor. No, that's a joke, I'm not sponsored yet. We need to talk about history first. My journey into Anarchy was a messy one. I tried playing on the oldest Anarchy server in Minecraft. We've all heard that one before, but the long queues meant I needed to leave my computer on overnight, just to get back in the morning and still be number 100 in line. I eventually made it in a few times, and I was mostly a nomad. I managed to make it out of spawn a few times. Once I got trapped in a nether portal around 10k out. The second time I just got murdered about 25k out. And the last time I had found pigs and saddles and could exploit entity speed. I made it out to 270k when I just fell in lava. For me, that was the last of my 2B2T experience. Being stuck on 1.12, huge waiting queues to get inside, I decided to start looking for another Anarchy server for me to join. This brings us to our next chapter, the search. Destroyum scene. I joined DMC with no expectations, just to get to know the server and its people. After 2 or 3 days of just traveling around the server, I stopped at around 100k and made a huge lava cast. I was going to call this my home. We had only about 5 people on at each time, so I decided to leak my own cohorts for the lols. In less than 30 minutes I had visitors that griefed the base. They still left me alive and actually invited me to their base. This is how I joined Venom Force. After about 2 weeks of fun and getting to know my new group in this empty server, we got an announcement on Discord. The server is closing. Wow, I thought to myself, this completely defeats the purpose of Anarchy. But don't worry, we will eventually get to my opinion on Anarchy. So, now, with no server to go once again, I turned online to find a more active server on the most recent versions. This brings us to Nether Anarchy. At the time, the most well-known Anarchy server on the latest version. Sure, they only had about 30 online players, but for Anarchy, besides 2B2T, this was the largest at this point. And so, once again, with no expectations, I joined. This is a longer story, so buckle down. This time I had planned to make a base way out in the end. For this base I'd need a couple of things to start. My journey began to find a few valuable items. I needed all types of vegetation, I needed a few beacons, I'd be happy with 2 or 3. And finally, cows and villagers. Since this is an Anarchy server, it's easier to transport mobs with boat fly. You just put a villager in a boat and fly off. So, after about 3 weeks in, I had met a friend, Flo. He was a familiar face from Venom Force, and he was excited to join me on the project. He would move a villager and I was in charge of moving the other. I went to scout our place, found an end gateway at around 90k and decided it would be the place for us. I set up a mini base with some farms and an enchanting area and moved to get the second villager. Because I knew Flo was making it there with the first village. It took Flo 2 days and me 5 days to get the 2 villagers out. Flo ended up disappearing due to IRL reasons and I was now stuck in the end alone with 2 villagers. I started making some progress and about a week went by and a player by the name of Nifo contacted me to start a new group on the server. He had some other players to start the council and wanted me because he saw I was quiet but active. We ended up founding the Corp of Engineers and ended up meeting at our HQ, known then as 00. There I met Tim the Human, Giant Possum and Nifo. As time went by, me, Tim and Possum got closer, and Tim decided to invite us to his main base. A kind gesture in an unforgiving environment. He said it was out in the millions though, and so I decided to make the walk through the nether roof. It took a full week without a walk. About another month passed and we grew the base. We set up our own neighboring bases and started to grow something big. The fall of a giant. Suddenly, we get a notification on Discord. The world is going for a backup. Great, we thought. First day passed, no news. We started to fear the worst. The second day passed and we knew something had gone down. On the third day, we got another notification saying the server map had had a problem and we needed to go to a previous backup. This was not a soft backup. We went back to before moving the villagers in the end, meaning I lost my base with the corp and my main base was, again, nothing. For me, that was it. I decided to end my anarchy journey then. I just couldn't take it, I mean... Hey guys, this is the villain from behind the scenes. This monster behind me will be part of the next event. If you wish to participate, there is a Discord link in the description below. See you there. More surprises. Almost a year passed, and suddenly, Gibbons, the new leader of Corp, contacted me. He knew I was in server hosting and that I have my own server. He brought eventful news, but not unexpected news. He told me that Nether Anarchy was closing, that the owner got doxxed and decided to close the server for good. So he asked if I would be willing to open an anarchy server for the stragglers of a broken community. This gave me a lot to think about. What is anarchy? Do I want the headache of doing this? It's a lot of monetary investment. It's a lot of time investment. But I knew I had to make a decision fast. This brings us to exactly a year ago. I contacted the old owner of Nether Anarchy as I had spoken to him before. He sounded like a respectful and dedicated person, so I wanted to apologize in the name of the community and as an ex-corp member. He ended up telling me he really was done with everything anarchy. He simply wanted to be at peace, and so he was selling the IPs for Nether Anarchy, asking me if I was interested. He also had a few other people interested, and after some negotiations I ended up getting the winning bid. Why did I do this? Well, I wanted to preserve something that, for me, was great. Anarchy for me is history. It's a mark. More than a place with no rules, it's where you can do whatever you want with the limitation being you. Being able to place a block in the millions, and in 20 years it's still there. I was interested in preserving a piece of history, and to not let this fall into the wrong hands. Let's be honest, a public bid with an anarchy server IPs could lead to a massive IP leak for a community. With all of this being said, I already had my mind made. I wanted to create a safe refugee for this community. The community I was once part of, and that I had given up because I just didn't trust the server's continuity anymore. And so I started scrambling to get the server up, with the promise of whatever would happen to the server, it would stay on forever. As soon as the server went online, there was a huge speedrun for the Dragon Egg. Loki ended up getting the egg in a frenzy. During the first 2 days, we had an increase of 200 gigabytes for the world map. I had to implement a speed limiter for the nether roof, as people were simply going 50,000 blocks per second to get to the millions in all directions at the same time. This was an incredibly humbling experience that taught me a lot that I did not yet know about Minecraft server. 2 or 3 days into this experience, and Destroyum, yes, Destroyum decided to try and launch back their old server with a new map. This looked like a low blow for everyone in the community that knew the story of Destroyum. At this point, we had a steady 20 to 30 players online at any time. We also had some eventful activities, like the Fraternity, a large group releasing 62 withers at spawn. I guess the Nether Anarchy community wanted to either teach or challenge me, because the following weeks were some of the most excruciating weeks of my life. We were constantly botted. Every time I went to bed, someone was ready to trigger the bot attack and either crash the server or make it so no one can join, because the slots are full. Every time I implemented a change to limit the bots, they'd make a change and make it in again. Like for example, joining and then immediately going AFK, preventing the first kick. This was great for testing the server's capabilities, and we ended up fitting 100 players instead of 80. Although this was still hard for the actual community that wanted to play. After glitches, a donkey dupe, a bunch of other bugs and exploits were patched, we were happy with the stability of the server. But unfortunately, that's when a munchkin decided it would be funny to DOS the server. This caused the Great Abandonment, a mass leaving of players from our Discord. This DOS was very powerful and I was not ready for it. Even after being able to reroute some of the DOS, we were still being targeted. Only after about a week and 2 terabytes of log files later were we able to get the server back online to its normal state. But the week with the server offline, when we were a 6-week-old server, was too much. People just started leaving and the Great Abandonment was at full stake. We went from around 40 to 50 at peak times to only 25 players at peaks in 2 weeks. After a month, we were at 10 to 12 maximum online. This was a sad reality, but this also led to the most peaceful time during the server's history. A small community of players made it into spawn and started making a base together. At spawn, for about 3 weeks, this base was undiscovered. But, like everything in Anarchy, it did end up being fully griefed. Bringing us to the conclusion of this video, and our last chapter, my commitment to you and myself. The first priority is the server's longevity, where you can donate to help with upgrades, but the server will never close. It has already been running for a year with a very small player base, and we even have enabled rail, carpet and TNT duping, which is all intentional. You can check more info about this in the wiki in the description below. Furthermore, there are no intentions to ever resetting the map or close the server. It has been fully optimized for the latest versions of the game and will continue to be so for years to come. That's it. Join us today at invinciblenarchy.net and subscribe.